Right, okay. So I'm going to try and make a video focusing on how we performed as a band, really. Sort of how we came to be. Right, try and keep it concise and focused. Right, so, from my point of view again. So I started playing guitar at 15 for whatever reasons. Got into it. And what I tend to do with stuff when I get into it is, because I've got ADHD, I have something which is called hyperfocus, which basically means while it's a bit incongruous really, because while you find it hard to concentrate on the majority of everything else, things that really capture your imagination, you can focus on incredibly easily. As I say, to the detriment of everything else, unfortunately. But it does mean hyperfocus that, for example, when I picked up a guitar, it didn't take me long to get to a point where I could write riffs, pretty much. And people might say, oh, talent or whatever. The point being, I was going to play that guitar. I was determined to learn how to play that guitar. So you can call it talent, you can call it determination. It's a distinction without a difference, ultimately, is what it is. So when I started playing guitar, I was very aware early on that I was interested in effects, in effects. I wasn't necessarily fascinated by old-fashioned guitar playing, I think maybe you call it, I don't know. But I very quickly, well, another thing about me when I get into something like that is I want all the bits that go with it, do you know what I mean? Like the pedals and stuff like that, so it was probably more to do with that. But anyway, so yeah, I got myself a series of effects pedals. I know I said my Zoom 8080 was the first. I don't think it was. I think it was actually a Digitech RP5. And I think that's the one that I actually came up with the first sounds on. So anyway, let's stick to this bit. So, playing guitar. So anyway, I won't get into this side of it too much, but obviously I went to school with Stu and Rob. Stu all the way through. Rob went to a different junior school, but then went to the same high school. So Robert was in another band. He was singing and playing guitar in another band. And me and Stu were spending a lot of our time in the music block at school, with the drum kits, the bass guitars, the guitars, all that sort of stuff. So me and Stu actually sort of started playing things then, not really jamming as such. We were, what we were doing, playing Nirvana songs and Green Day and stuff like that. You know what I mean? But it was fun. It was fun. What more do you need to know? It was fun. So me and Stu had done a bit of jamming at school and we were friends, and Rob was in this other band. Now, as I make no secret of, I love Robert's voice. Do you know what I mean? I always have. It does something to me, and it always has. And when he was in that band, all I could think was, I want to write songs with this lad. I want to take the sounds I'm making with guitar, and I want him to sing over them. So again, speaking from my own point of view, or what happened, I effectively put that to Rob. And so me and Rob did GCSE music together, which is a funny story. But the salient points of that story are that during GCSE music, how can I put this? Because me and Rob showed sort of natural ability or whatever, our teacher was more than happy for me and Rob to just go and do our own thing. So, so basically what me and Rob did is we would sit in the store cupboard and I would play him stuff that I'd written on my guitar. Because again, when I started playing guitar, I wasn't playing other people's songs for very long. As soon as I could shape chords and voice notes, I was writing stuff, creating stuff. So I would take those things into the music block effectively, take my guitar in and play them to Rob, and he'd sing stuff on them. So, our music coursework or homework or whatever, or what we'd done, So that were it basically. So in music class, you'd get sent off to create something for an hour, and then you'd have to come back at the end and play it to everyone. So me and Rob would talk for the majority of the time, have a laugh, but not only have a laugh, but talk about what we were going to do with this band, because it did become a concept we talked about. So we'd spend 45 minutes talking, and then the last 5 minutes we'd go, come on, we better do something then. I'd play guitar, he'd sing, and it'd just be great instantly. It'd just be because of his voice or whatever. And like I say, I love writing chord sequences, and not only that, I love writing chord sequences for his voice, or riffs for his voice. I always have. So that then turned into, because Rob was always as he is now, a really popular lad, because of the type of person he is. Very much the life and soul of the party. I mean, that might be slightly different now, but very much back then, he was the life and soul of everyone's party. So anyway, I was at this point still effectively locked in my bedroom playing the guitar, coming up with these riffs, messing with effects and things like that. So let's try and further this story a bit. So me and Rob would then go for walks around Kippax on a night. We go up and get some chicken kebabs, and then we'd just walk around Kippax talking about things, talking about music. And I remember a lot of it vividly. But I specifically remember the Stereophonics were just getting big. I can't remember the name of that album, but it was things like, their big first album anyway. And I remember me and Rob being, what age we were then, I don't know, must have been late 15, turning 16, maybe just turned 16, but we were saying to each other, obviously at that point, we were saying we're better than that. You know what I mean? If they were better than that, the stuff we come up with in music class for a laugh in 5 minutes to convince the teacher we've actually been working, which we weren't. We were just good enough that in 5 minutes we could come up with something that sounded good. Do you know what I mean? I'm slightly on the tangent now. So yeah, we were walking around and we were planning stuff when we were eating these chicken kebabs. We were planning this band, planning what we were going to do, talking about things at the same time as I was doing what I was doing. Stu was getting really good at bass. So anyway, the band that Rob was in, Phil was the drummer in. So in this band, there was Rob and there was Phil. Now, I obviously knew Stu was a bass player, so that was obviously the first thought in that regard. And then Rob wanted to bring Phil in. So that's pretty much what happened. Me and Rob had talked about things, planned things. I'd come up with quite a few riffs by that point, not songs, just riffs. But riffs that I would, I'd worked a lot on the sounds to make it, like the dance, for example, and Too High and Human, quite a few of them. So, again, to try and cut a rambling long story short, we arranged to have a practice. I think it was Robert's dad who arranged all those things for us back then, and it was in, which pub were it in? High Street? Commercial? I can't remember, is it Commercial? Which one, other side of court? One of the pubs in High Street anyway, was it Treat? No, I can't remember. Can't remember the name of it. I don't frequent pubs that much. Anyway, not judging people who do, just saying I don't, so I don't know the names of pubs. That's the point I'm making. So anyway, we practiced above there, and I remember, so our first practice, I'd met Phil very briefly, but not properly. So our first practice was us just getting into a room, everyone setting up the stuff, and at that point it was a case of sort of going, well, what we're going to do, and I was like, well, I've got these riffs, basically, so start playing the dance, and thinking, I don't know what's going to happen here. I played with lads at school like Stu and a couple of other lads, but never really approached a band situation like that. And anyway, off Phil goes, doing Phil's thing. And I don't know about everyone else, the other three, I'm sure it was, but it was instant. It was instant. Literally, it was instant. There was no, there was no gelling. There was no gelling to be done. or anything like that. It was just natural. It was natural. And so I think, so this, I suppose this video is history and it's how we used to write. It's a little bit of both, maybe. Because that is primarily how we used to write back then. And so, for example, we'll take the dance. So I play that riff, Phil starts doing Phil's thing, Stu comes in, doing what he's doing, and like I say, it was instant, and then it's like, right, what's going to happen next? And then Rob starts singing. And again, and it was a bit like, well, that's a bit jarring. Obviously the dance, the first few vocal notes in that, if you come from anything that's conventional, it'll make you stop in your tracks. It did me anyway, and I was thinking, what? Do you know what I mean? Does it, eh? But then after seconds, I was like, oh yeah, that it works. And not only does it work, it feels different to anything I've ever witnessed or heard. Do you know what I mean? By any other band, So it was that instant chemistry between us, which made us what we were, really. And obviously having never been in that situation, I don't think we realised, we probably do now, I like to think we do, but I don't think we realised how special that was. The fact that there was no effort, there was no grinding for years and working really hard. I'm sorry to tell you, the one that came, working really hard, touring, getting on planes, stress, having to meet deadlines with writing, all that came. But originally, when we first started, there was none of that. There was no fear, there was... And that was the other thing, there was no learning our instruments. You know, Phil did that drum and bass beat just out of the can, first time I ever met him. I made damn sure I could play. Because that's all I did from the age of 15. I wasn't interested in anything else. All I wanted to be was the best that I could be on guitar. That's all I was interested in. And Stu, do you know what I mean? Stu again, just what can you say about Stu really in terms of his bass playing and his ear for rhythm and all that stuff. That's the point, is we never had to talk about anything. I mean, the dance is in 2 hours. It's got peaks, it's got troughs, it does things. None of that was talked about. That is a result. That is a result of being in a room together enough and just playing it over and over again. You know, because you don't get bored. You know, there can come points years and years down the line when you're jamming when you can get bored, don't get me wrong. But at that stage, when it's all so fresh, it's like discovering, I don't know, you know, it's like discovering magic. That's what it was. You know, and you'll probably see it in my face now. That's exactly what it was. And that's what it feels like now, thinking back to it, really. But, so yeah, that's how we used to write songs. Just jamming it through like that. It was entirely natural, and that's how it went for a long time. Stop this video, sorry. No, it's alright, no, it's alright, carry on. Yeah, so that's what we did really. You know, very quickly we had a huge, I say huge, I mean, I don't know, 8, 9, 10 ideas that you could listen to and that were great. Do you know what I mean? Just instantly great. And so I suppose our big break, if you want to call it that or whatever, was entering the Bright Young Things competition. So the heats were at the Duchess. I'm not going to get too much into the ins and outs of that, but again, getting on to salient points. The salient points of that was Tim was there, Tim Biggin, our manager now obviously, but he was there as a judge. I'm going to try and breeze through this. So, because he was there as a judge, basically, he saw us. I'm going to go right through this. He saw us, he'd never heard of us, he's always thought we were good, thought we were interesting, and basically straight away after that gig, he expressed his interest to sign us to a management company, not a record label at that point. I mean, we were only 16 or something. He wanted, expressed interest in signing us to a management company, which we were absolutely blown away by. But and as well, I mean, we won that competition, but that didn't matter. You know, we could have lost that competition, and Tim would have still saw what he saw in us. So that's kind of where it all started, and that's where I'll leave this one. I'll pick it up after this. I might say a few more things, but to try and keep it understandable and short enough, and other things. So, I mean, is there anything else to say, or shall I leave it there for now? Well, the only thing I'll say is that the period from when we first started making these songs to Bright Young Things, it wasn't very long. It was less than a year, I think. I don't think we've even been together a year. It all just happened so fast and so easy, making the music. It just, and that's why we felt so invincible, because it was just so easy. Either I would come in with a riff and we'd work around that, or Stu would come in with a bass line that he'd come up with and everyone would work around that, or Phil would come in with a beat, or Rob would have a vocal hook, or Rob would have a guitar hook as well, and we work around that. So don't get me wrong, it's not like we always work around my riffs. I'm not saying that. We certainly did for those first few songs, Human Too High, the dance and things like that, but primarily everything we created, especially on the first album and the second album, was everyone doing their own thing. It didn't matter who instigated it. That was irrelevant, because whoever was going to instigate it, we were all going to respond to that musically. Do you know what I mean? In the way that we did, I would presume. And because of that, I think that's why we crossed so many genres. Because, as I say, if I started an idea, if Phil started an idea, if Stu, if Rob, every one of those have kind of come out with a different result. Do you know what I mean? Rather than having 4 people from the same musical mentality pushing in the same direction, that's not what we had. We had 4 incredibly different people bound together by how... Sorry, I watch my language. We were bound together by how easy it was. Right, okay, I'll leave this video there. Thank you.